What is going on, everyone? So I'm back for another video. If you're looking for the best camera for 2023, it is none other, in my opinion, none other than this guy right here, the Canon C70. Now let me tell you about this. If you're doing interviews, B-rolls, or just looking for really good cinematic shots, this is definitely going to be the camera for you. Let me tell you the reasons why I love this camera and I just can't get enough of it. I actually might be purchasing two of them because this camera is just so stinking good. All right, so let me talk about some of my favorite things about this Canon C70, and the first one is the obvious one, built-in NDs. Now, you've heard this before, but you haven't heard it like this. A lot of people say, oh wow, just go ahead and buy some variable NDs, it's only $100. Anyone that says that to you, they're just full of garbage. Let me just show you this right quick. So right here, I have 3 Canon camera lenses, and all 3 of these lenses have a different thread on them. And if I want to buy something like a 2 to 5 stop, or even let's say a 2 to 10 stop, I've got to buy a lot of variable NDs for just these 3 cameras because they all have a different thread on them. And you might say, oh, well, just buy a step-up ring or whatever those things are called, you know what there are. The problem with that is when I'm shooting with multiple cameras, let's say I got 3 cameras because I'm a wedding videographer, and if I got 3 cameras going, you need different variable NDs for all 3 cameras. And let me tell you, I have spent a boatload of money on variable NDs because you need 2 to 5 stop, and you also need the 5 to 10 stop or whatever it is. So I've got a lot of these, and these are just a few of them that I have. And I'm telling you, it just is a game changer to have the built-in variable NDs. Every time you mount one of these to, let's say, a gimbal, you have to rebalance the gimbal, you have to set everything up again. And if it gets dark, then you gotta take it off and then rebalance again. But with the variable ND, the built-in ND filters, it's just awesome. Because I am just done with spending so much money on these variable ND filters just so I can have all the way to 2 to like 10 stop or something like that. Now, I do have the backup cameras like the R6 and the R5, and I'll still keep these, and they're really good because you can also get mist edition, things like that, that make your shots look really cinematic. So besides that obvious, the built-in ND filters, that is just one of my favorite features about this camera, and that alone is a really good reason just to buy this camera in of itself. And let me tell you, that is not all that this camera packs. This camera packs a punch, and it is an amazing cinema camera. If you're looking for cinematic shots and you're a wedding videographer, or you do clientele work with interviews, things like that, this is definitely a very good camera for you to pick up. All right, so talking about the second favorite thing about this camera right here, and that is the XLR, the Mini XLR to be precise. Now, I don't know why a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I didn't like the Mini XLR, wish you would have put in like an XLR, whatever case may be. What's the big deal? Just go out and get something that fits in it and then you're good to go. I don't understand why it's such a big deal, but the audio settings and the audio channel on this camera is definitely a game changer because I can have 4 different audios going. So let's say I'm doing an interview and I want to mic up 2 different people rather than just using the shotgun mic like I'm using right here. But if you don't want to do that and you want to just go with different channels, you can now always hook up to 2 of the Mini XLR, and then you have another input there as well. So that is definitely a very good thing for a cinema camera. All right, my third favorite thing about this camera is undoubtedly the customization that you can do with all the buttons and the things that you can set up in this camera. This thing, you can literally customize everything, and it is so handy, it is so intuitive, it's just really easy to use. And if you want me to make a full video tutorial on walking you step by step for the entire menu system of the C70, give this video a like and mention that down in the comments, and I'll go ahead and do something like that for you. All right, moving on to number 4. Definitely the battery life on this is amazing. I've gone to all-day shoots at weddings, and just 2 batteries have lasted me the entire day. I've gone through basically really early in the morning, like 6 in the morning, and this battery will last me all the way till about 1 o'clock, and then the second battery, we're good to go. Whereas something like the R5C, that battery is just, it drains like so fast. I had that camera and I actually got rid of it because I didn't really like the battery life on it, and there was a few quirks that I just didn't like about the camera. Maybe I should have given a little bit more of a time with firmware updates and things like that, but this camera here definitely has not disappointed me at all, and I'm happy that I went with this one. And getting into point number 5, and that is the SD cards. Now, a lot of people say, I don't like the SD cards, I would rather CF Express. Now, I, for one, I like the SD cards because I can just hook it right into my MacBook Pro and I don't need any dongles or nothing like that. It just goes right into my MacBook Pro. Now, be careful when you're doing with this camera, you want something that's a V90 card and 300 megabytes per second. If you don't have that, you will not be able to record in all frame rates of this camera. And you have to have a V90 card. And always, whenever you're on a wedding shoot or a professional clientele, you want a dual card record. Because if you don't dual card record and something happens to one of the memory cards, then you've lost it. So always back up your footage. 100% definitely would recommend the V90 cards, 300 megabytes per second. Now, I definitely love the image that comes out of this camera. I don't like my images too sharp. I actually love the image that comes out of this because it's more filmic looking. When you get a really sharp video, it kind of looks a little, I guess, amateur, kind of like an iPhone would look, where everything is really sharp. I actually love the image that comes out of this because it looks a little bit more soft. It looks more like Hollywood movies, if you might say it that way. So I love the image that comes out of this camera, and when you pair this camera, because it doesn't have in-body stabilization, which I don't really care about that. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, you gotta have in-body, R5 has it, the R6 has it, and you don't have it in this. Who cares? Just get an RS3 Pro. You match that with the RS3 Pro, you hook it up, and then press record, and you're good to go. I actually love the big, bulky build of this camera. I don't like really small, compact cameras. For one, now this is just my opinion, obviously it's not right or wrong. In my opinion, when people show up on job sites, if they're a wedding videographer and they have this really small, I'm not gonna say Sony, but they have this really small camera, and it's just like, people tend to not look at you as really professional, because let's be honest, whenever we see a professional shoot, Hollywood movies, things like that, these guys are rigged right out. They even have like these massive, huge rigs that go right on their shoulders, things like that. So when I show up to a shoot, I've actually had clients come up to me and be like, wow, man, that camera's huge. When it's on the RS3 Pro and it has the lens on there and a few other things like monitor, people notice that stuff right away. So when you show up onto a job site, if you want to be taken really serious, this guy will definitely do that for you. Now, obviously, a lot of Sony cameras are amazing and they get really good image, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So all in all, if you're looking for a professional camera that can get any job done, pretty much any job that you throw at it, it is definitely the Canon C70, the one I would recommend. This has been my go-to camera for the last year now, and I love this camera. I mean, you would really have to update this camera a lot. A few things that would make me upgrade from this is like a full frame sensor, that kind of thing, maybe in-body stabilization, stuff like that, higher frame rates, that kind of thing. I don't really care about 8K because nobody uses that anyway. I don't know why they're doing all that all the time. All right, so keep in mind, so this camera comes with a very hefty price tag, and it's running you anywhere between $7,000 to even $8,000. Now, if you can't afford something like that, then I would go with something like the R6. I'm actually shooting on the R6 right now, so if you like the image that comes out of that, it is without a doubt a very good camera. I've actually shot with that camera for the first part of my career, my life, for videography, and it's never let me down. It's a really good camera, so if you're looking for a good starter camera, go with the kit lens or the R6. All right, guys, so that's it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.